Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth Newsom and welcome to my BookTube channel. Today I'm reviewing this book, Process: 14 Surprisingly Simple Behaviors to Skyrocket Millennials to Success by Jonathan J. Jones. And I'll be combining this review with several of my New Year's resolutions. So how I got this book is actually really cool. I was going to a career success conference that my college was hosting, which is essentially 3 or 4 workshops you go to and you listen to people talk, and then usually there's a Q&A afterwards. And I always sit on the front row if possible, just because that's what I've been told to do, and I like being up front and close. So then at the end of this one session, the author, Jonathan Jones, he gives everyone a signed copy of his book who's sitting in the front row. And I was like, whoa, that's so awesome. Like when I'm a speaker and an author, that's what I want to do. I want to have free copies of signed books and I want to give them out to people on the front row. Like how cool is that, just on multiple accounts? And of course, since I have this YouTube channel and all, I thought I'd review it. So all of my New Year's resolutions correspond to a chapter that he wrote in the book. To talk about the book, a lot of the advice is pretty basic, and it's not going to be like anything new that you haven't heard before. Like there's be thankful, be positive, be respectful, be on time, and we all know that we should do these things. With that said, a lot of these offer really great advice, and I particularly loved the journal prompts at the end of each chapter. And it really inspires you to reassess the different areas of your life and think about what you can do to improve. So the first chapter says, be thankful. And my corresponding resolution for that is this year I want to get a gratitude buddy. So a year or two ago, I had kind of a gratitude buddy that I'd text each morning with what I was thankful for, and she'd text me back with something she was thankful for. But she kind of got tired of it, and then I just dropped it altogether. And I'd really like to get another gratitude buddy and do that again this year. And I have just the person in mind. But I'll have to wait until I go back to school because she lives back in Texas. Chapter 2 is be positive. For this, my resolution is to speak more positively about others. Sometimes I speak negatively about others and I don't bother to balance that out with speaking positively about them or contemplating why they might act how they act. For one of my classes, I watched a TED Talk called The Dangers of a Single Story, and it was about how sometimes we tend to stereotype people in our minds because we only have one story about them. And while that story might be true, it's not the whole truth. And I think sometimes I just tell people a single story about someone. Like I'll get angry or upset about someone, and then the things I tend to speak about them are negative. And that's not to say I can only say like, wow, this person is amazing and they're good at all these things, and never talk about someone's flaws or anything, but with that, I definitely need to be more committed to not just telling someone a single story. And I want to be honest about people, but I also want to speak about people in a positive light. Like even if they have this flaw, maybe they have this flaw because of this thing that happened. Or even though they have this flaw, they also have a bunch of really great things about them. Chapter 3 is be respectful. For this, my resolution is to honor my parents. So now that I'm off at college, my parents and I kind of have a unique relationship. Like off at college, I have my own schedule and I get to do my own stuff. And then at home, all of a sudden they can tell me what to do and assign chores or like put certain restrictions on me. And sometimes that like annoys me so much because I'm so used to being off at college and being able to do my own stuff. And then I come back here and sometimes I don't get to do my own stuff. I mean, they are pretty respectful of boundaries now and respecting some of my decisions. But even so, just with this tension, I want to make sure I honor my parents because that's definitely a huge priority in my life. And I haven't always made it as big of a priority as I should have. Chapter 4 is be on time. So this is a really good one for me. Generally, I am usually kind of on time. But I want to be more committed to that, like try to be at least 5 minutes early. So my plan is that I use Google Maps to calculate how long it'll take to drive somewhere, and then I just add 15 minutes to whatever that number is. So hopefully that'll help me to be more punctual because that's definitely something I want to work on. Chapter 5 is be professional. For this one, I want to go ahead and redesign my business cards and my website. He wasn't necessarily talking about business cards and the website in the book, but those are 2 things I really need to make sure I do this year before I publish my book. Chapter 6 is be a giver, and I kind of combine this with chapter 13, which says be a role model. So with money, I feel like I'm pretty good at giving. I tithe regularly. and I pay to go on mission trips, which are expensive. I feel like one area I'd like to do better in is being generous with my time. Just because I highly value my time, I have so many goals and so many things I want to do, and sometimes it's hard to sacrifice that for others and just to kind of love them. So what I really want to try and do this upcoming year is to find someone that I can mentee. Like, I used to have a mentee when I lived in New Mexico, and then I moved to college, and now she's in Ohio. And then I went to visit the church recently that I attended here in New Mexico, and the associate pastor gave me a huge hug, and he's like, "You need to make sure you're mentoring someone when you're back in college." And he's totally right, because I have several mentors, but another important part of the whole mentoring process is also having someone that you are mentoring. So I'd really just like to get one particular person that I can pour myself and my time into and just like help them be a better person and achieve their goals. Chapter 7 is Be Determined. So generally I am pretty determined, but I want to do better in my morning routines. Like, I used to have really, really good morning routines that like lasted an hour or an hour and a half, especially during my gap year. And since I've gone to college, I go to bed decently early, like 9:30 or 10, and I get up at like 6. I'll do some devotions, I'll exercise, I'll write, but I really want to be more devoted to that morning time because a lot of times I end up cutting it short just because I'm in a hurry. So in order to make sure I have enough time for my morning routine, that means I'll have to start being stricter with my bedtime, which is kind of hard in college and you're socializing and stuff. But that's something I'd really like to be more determined about. Chapter 8 is Be Yourself. This one took me a long time to think about. Eventually, I decided I'd like to be more open about my faith with other people. I'm not ashamed that I'm a Christian or anything, but the majority of people on the college campus definitely aren't super committed Christians. And even if they're technically Christians, they still sleep around or go drinking and partying. Which isn't to say that automatically makes them a non-Christian, but I just want to be better about pulling Jesus into my conversations. And I don't mean like randomly going up to people and trying to evangelize and stuff, which I think that's okay, but I've had people do that to me once, and I've seen other people do it, and I don't think that's how I really want to reach people. I like to reach people through my writing and then through conversations. I've had a few atheists and other people ask me about why I believe what I believe and historical and scientific proof for God's existence. And I love talking about that. And I'd like more opportunities to talk about those things. And I think an easy way to do it is just to casually mention Jesus in conversations. Like, I have a friend. This is actually the friend I want to be my gratitude buddy, but she's so good about this. She just talks about how, yeah, I get to study psychology, and it's so amazing to see how God designed us. Or, I'm so blessed to have this. Just like little things like that. Like, not like in your face, but casual mentions just to let you know that Jesus is an integral part of her life. And I kind of want to be more like that because she initiates a lot of great conversations about Christianity through that. Chapter 9 is Be a Social Butterfly. So if any of you know me in person, I am an enormous social butterfly. I love people and I love having lots of friends, and I just think people are really cool in general. But socially, one thing I definitely want to work more on is developing a core social group. Just because in college there's a lot of people with drastically different beliefs than you have, which is a great thing. It's a great time to learn about what other people believe and to kind of empathize with sides you disagree with. But at the same time, I'd really like to develop a core group of people who share similar values and beliefs to what I do and who could inspire me to grow and become a better person. Because in college, I tend to be a huge social butterfly. I eat with different people for lunch and dinner, and I just hang out with different people all the time. I don't really have a lot of people I consistently hang out with, so I'd like to build that. Chapter 10 is Be Healthy. And my resolution for this is to be better about logging calories. So most of the time I do log my calories on my phone anyway, but sometimes I kind of slack off a bit and I don't do that. So that's something I'd like to be a bit more intentional and aware of. Chapter 11 is Be Faithful. So I actually just ordered a purity ring for Christmas, and I used to have one, but I lost it. And I got it because I've been thinking a lot about purity in college. And not just physical purity, but purity of the heart and of the spirit. And I want to wear my purity ring even after marriage. Because just because you get married doesn't mean you're not pure in heart anymore. Like, a lot of people wear a purity ring to say that they're going to save themselves for marriage. And I totally agree with that, and I'm behind it 100%. But I don't want to wear a purity ring to say oh yeah, I'm just waiting until I get married. I want to wear a purity ring to show God that He's first in my life. And if He asks me to be sexually pure before marriage, I'll do that. But for me, purity is so much more than just not having sex before marriage. And above all, it's about a commitment to God. So that's something I really want to focus on this upcoming year. Chapter 12 is Be Forgiving. So sometimes I tend to be a bit emotionally sensitive and I hold on to some things longer than I should. And this year, I want to be more intentional about forgiving people. Because a lot of times you don't just have to forgive someone once, you have to forgive them over and over and over. Because the things people say and do don't quit hurting. Like whenever I think about something mean someone has said or done, like it always hurts. Which means that forgiveness is a process, not necessarily a destination. So this year, when I think about someone that I'm upset with or something mean that someone's done or someone said, I want to interrupt that negativity with just like a thought of gratitude or a prayer or wishing that person well. And chapter 14 is Be Educated. Initially for this, I was going to be like, oh, I'm in college, so duh, that covers it. But then I thought about it. And education is about so much more than just a formal education. I believe Jim Rohn has a quote that says, a formal education can make you a living. A self-education can make you a fortune. So as far as my own personal self-education goes outside of college, I'd really like to read some nonfiction books about self-publishing. Just because I have a book that I'll be publishing this upcoming summer, and self-publishing can turn out really well or really, really badly. And I just know that if I want to do self-publishing right, I'll have to do a lot of research and a lot of thinking about it. So I really want to commit myself to researching more and to reading more about the self-publishing process. Well, there you guys have my 13 New Year's resolutions. I know New Year's was a few days ago, but it's never too late, right? So hopefully I'll be able to stick to all of them. I guess we'll have to see a year from now. And I'll also leave information so you guys can find this book online or on Amazon and check it out because it just has a lot of really basic fundamental tips that you need to be successful. If you enjoy this, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you like videos about books or college because I post about one a week. And in the comments, I'd love to hear more about your New Year's resolutions, especially as it relates to reading. Let me know down below and I'll see you next time.